Oi! So I'm out and about in the park. Just been at home watching some very low-grade horrors. No budget, I would say, horrors really. A bunch of these. So this one was When Death Calls. This one over here, and the other one was a pack of 4 different films in this Grindhouse collection. This 21st century Grindhouse, whatever that is. So I'll start off with the Grindhouse Pack first. So you got 4 films there. You got Brutal Jesus and The Wasted Youth, The Violent Vicar, She's Dead, and Terror of the Blood Demon. And there's sort of 2 types of films here. They're all no budget. There's a bunch of guys just doing this for fun at home sort of thing. But they all work a little bit differently. So there's the 2 that are done in a similar way as Brutal Jesus and The Violent Vicar. They sort of, they're dodgily shot, but then they add on that Grindhouse sort of scratch effect and sort of flares across the screen and that sort of thing, which kind of actually works with these films. And then the other 2, the She's Dead and Terror of the Blood Demon, are they're shot cleanly, still in that very low budget, not a real sort of film camera sort of way, but it's clean. So there's 2 different styles of films here. I think the ones that work better were the ones that were done all scratchily. I think the effects really enhanced them, to be honest with you. So Brutal Jesus, out of all 4 on this pack, I'd say Brutal Jesus is definitely the best. It's basically it starts off and a guy dressed as Jesus turns up at these drug addicts' house, and they invite him in. They take him for who he is. G'day Jesus, come on in. And then they invite him to sit with them. Jesus sits there for quite some time with them, and they're doing their drugs and drinking and talking rubbish, and finally Jesus snaps and kills them all. And then that kind of repeats. He goes to the next group of people, that shady characters that are up to no good, and he sits down. They always invite Jesus in, come sit with us, Jesus, and then eventually he does away with them. And as the movie goes on, you find out there is a backstory to this guy, this Jesus, if you want to call him. Definitely looks like Jesus. But yeah, he's got his own story and why he's doing this. He doesn't speak in the whole film. It's not bad. Out of all these films, I kind of like Brutal Jesus the best. That one was worth watching. The next one was The Violent Vicar, and that too was pretty decent. It was done, like I said, with the Grindhouse, with the scratch effects and that sort of thing. This one's a little bit more silly. I think Brutal Jesus, that the dodgy effects and the way it was filmed actually had a rawness to it that really, really worked. But with The Violent Vicar, it was just it was more of a silly story to begin with. There's a vicar who's not all right in the head, and he starts off good, but then starts killing people and that sort of thing. On the other side of town, there's some reverend that's just plain bad. Was never good, not insane, just a bad dude. And it culminates into these 2 characters, the vicar and the reverend, eventually battling it out in the end. That's really the story. There's no real story to it, just a lot of silly killing and that sort of thing. So the Violent Vicar, it was fun though. I did enjoy that. And then next on the line was She's Dead, which was pretty interesting. It was done cleanly. It was shot in one single room, the whole thing. So there's a lot of dialogue to this film, and it's essentially a guy has a one-night stand, and he wakes up, and the lady he had a one-night stand with is dead, and that's how the film starts. And from that point on, he's got to sort of decide, well, what the heck am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? My parents are home in an hour's time, and he basically has to dispose of the body or do what he needs to do to get rid of the evidence. And that's what the whole film is, set in one room. And there's a couple of characters that come in and out to try and help him. It gets pretty silly, and it is pretty funny in parts. Really B-grade, like D-grade stuff. But look, it's not too bad. It's I didn't mind it, to be honest with you. And then finally, the Terror of the Blood Demon. That was the one I just finished watching now. And definitely the bottom of the barrel there. It's a group of people on Halloween have a seance and I guess resurrect some sort of demon that possesses some of the people there. And very straightforward, not particularly that interesting. Yeah, it's the one, if you're only going to watch, you could probably have a good night, a fun night with a group of friends and some drinks watching these films, but you'd probably omit that one and just watch the other three. And these are all, they're not full length, they're shorts of such. They're about 40 minutes, maybe that the She's Dead might be an hour, but they're between about 40 minutes and an hour, these films. So, you know, you can tolerate the low quality for that long, I think. And then the other one I watched was by, I like the sound of this company at least. What is it? Yellow Ape Productions. I've never heard of them, but I love their weird yellow ape little logo thing. It's really dodgy. So this is When Death Calls, and this is a no-budget anthology film. And straight off the bat, if you're having to sell your film with a naked lady on the front cover, you know you're in for some pretty lowbrow stuff. If that's how you got to sell your film. And I knew that when I bought this. I knew that it wasn't going to be particularly awesome. But anyway, When Death Calls, anthology film. I will say they saved the better, not the best, but the better stories for the end. The last two stories were my favourite out of all of these here. And it was, yeah, the first couple of tales are a bit average. They're like, as far as there's some weird stuff going on, people get killed and there's a killer, but there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. They're sort of just a killer because there's a killer. Yeah, look, the first few stories, pretty mediocre, doesn't really make you want to keep watching, but when you get to the end, and there's some okay ones at the end. There's one with a dog, a man that keeps a dog and has these women come into his house. That was probably the best one. And the final one was okay too, for a bit of fun, with a wife that the husband kills and basically can't kill because she keeps coming back every time he kills her. Kind of funny. But yeah, once again, really low budget stuff. No budget, I should say. But yeah, a bunch of interesting low budget films. If you're in for a big trash fest, pick up these films. But yeah, don't expect very little, and you might get something out of them. But yeah, a night with friends and beer, I'd say, is the way to watch these. Anyway, that's about all I got for you guys. Catch you later.